Hello everybody, Dave Schopius here. It's Arts and Crafts Day in the Robot Lab here in sunny Florida. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be actually revealing a brand new part and a upgraded part. And they're both produced and sold by Craig Reinbrecht. He's one of the most prolific vendors of robot parts in the B9 Builders Robot, or B9 Robot Builders Club. Pardon me. You can find our website on the web. I'll put a link to it below this video. So anyway, what are we doing here today? We're going to be working. Let's talk about the first kit. The first kit that we have that I'm going to be doing here is the buttons. Okay. Craig offers these buttons through, you can see them on our website in the vendors section at the B9 Robot Builders Club. And these are beautiful buttons. I love these things. Nobody else has done these that I know of. And Craig has offered these for years and years, decades. Anyway, they're beautiful colored. They're exact to what you see on the second and third season robot from Lost in Space. But Craig has actually improved this beautiful little item to the point where it's almost idiot proof, which is good for me. If you look at this, you wonder what the problem is. It's really not a problem. It's been like this for a long time. It's part of the design, and Craig recently improved his design. If you notice as I pan back and forth, you can see light around the edges. That's because there's a light behind it, of course. And the light not only shines out through the nice acrylic lenses here, but it also finds any little gap to sneak through. I'll tell you what he did in a minute. I'll show you his new kit. Also, as we're looking at this, I think I've mentioned in my other few videos that this is a rebuild I'm doing for a guy. He bought it from another guy, and he asked me to get it put together for him properly and rebuild it. The guy who put this together before me, the lenses are all in the wrong spots. And at first glance, it doesn't look like a big deal, but if you're kind of picky like me and a bunch of other guys in the club, you want this robot to look just like he was back in the day, in the mid-60s, when you were a kid, watching the robot ramble along, protecting Will Robinson and the gang, and having his own bit of fun. So anyway, the green is supposed to be where the yellow is on both sides. So it's supposed to be yellow, green, red, green, yellow. And if you look a little closer, the actual buttons are, I don't know if you can pick that up because they're not, that's the other thing. None of the letters are painted. They're supposed to be painted black. But the buttons are all in the wrong place too. They're kind of backwards. They're supposed to be alpha, beta, gamma, detent, and vector hold. And these two here are backwards. So the negative is supposed to be on the positive, and positive is supposed to be the negative. So that's all mixed up. We're going to fix all that. And here is Craig's new design. And if you notice, well, I don't know if you can really notice or not, but his new kit has got the top layer is actually clear, and the bottom layer is the colored lens. So we're going to glue this right on top of that in the right position. So if you look at this, it'll cover up that light seeping out because the back lens is actually bigger. You see that? The back lens is actually bigger than the front lens. So on this old kit, he made the top lens the color, and the back lens was the clear. So it's just a fantastic idea. He's implemented it, and it works really nice. The other thing we need to do is with this type of setup, you glue these together with regular glue, and you're going to see any mix-up, any bubbles in the back. between between the acrylics, because when you put the acrylics together, and if anybody's done that, you know it's just a devil getting that on there great where there's no bubbles or creases showing, and you can kind of see it in these. I don't know if I can get in close or not. If you can see it, like around here, you can see the bubbles and the stuff in the back. Whoever did this did a pretty good job, but you can see a bunch of the bubbles and issues in the back, and they didn't paint the letters. So you're supposed to fill these in with black. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take and put these together and take some acrylic paint that I got at the hobby shop, and get this at like Michael's or any other art and craft store. I'm going to use this as my medium to thin it down, because these are a few years old, they're kind of thickening up. So I'm going to use this as airbrush medium to kind of thin them out a little bit. And a little water here because there are acrylic paints in my paint brushes and all that. What I've done already before I started this video is when they came to me, they came covered in a little piece of tape. So I've already peeled those off and got them all ready. And I did one more thing very carefully. I took a dental pick and I kind of went in to the grooves here and cleaned out any kind of dust or grains that were left in there after the laser cutting procedure. There's not much, but there's a little. Also, in between, when they cut out the laser cuts out these letters. In between the little spots like the O's here and the D's, a little piece will be hanging on. You got to kind of get that off. That's best to do with your fingernail, though. Don't use this on the glass, or you're going to scratch it. Okay, just use this very carefully when you get down in there. You know what I noticed? If you look here on the vector hold, you see that coming in? See that right there? That guy on the R, he never got that little piece off of there. So that pop that. What a difference that makes. That's been on there for years. Nobody even saw it. So anyway, you don't want to make that mistake. We're doing all this. We're going to do this under really precision and a nice job here. The first thing we're going to do is fill these letters in with some paint, and then we'll put a little bit on there and then wipe it off, and then let it dry and put a little bit more on there and wipe it off. And then before we're going to let it dry really good, and then before we glue them together, I'm going to take a piece of 400 wet dry sandpaper and just fog this over a little bit. Just that'll give it kind of a matte finish. Just sand a little bit. That will make it as clear as it is. I mean, that's clear. And that'll help capture the light as it comes through also, and diffuse it. So I had to look into this a little bit more. I'll let you know when I get back, but I might be sanding down this surface and the back side of this also, because when I glue these together, it'll help it to stick and give it more light diffuse. So I don't want it to look like it's fogged over and like you've seen, like crystal that's just totally opaque. I don't want that. I just want it to be kind of foggy. So, and I'm also not going to be using like wet glue, and I don't have it right here. Oh, hang on, so I'm going to reach back here and get it. I'm going to be using this stuff. It's Gorilla mounting tape, tough and clear. Okay, it's crystal clear mounting tape. It's a double-sided tape. I'll be putting it on one side, getting it perfect, dropping it on there, and sticking it together. And according to Craig, this is the best way to do this. He's worked on these and tried the best way, and he gets very little bubbling and creasing with this tape. So I've never done it like this, so this will be a first one for all of us. Craig assures me it's the way to go. What I like about this is if I really screw up and it looks bad and you'll get a lot of bubbles and stuff behind there for any reason, I can pop these off and redo it. I mean, you really have to work to get it apart because this stuff is pretty tough and clear. So I would, according to Craig, and we talked about this too, we wouldn't recommend this tape for like the push button kind, that you actually push the button and make the robot do something or have an actual click where it pushes in. These are static buttons. They don't push in. Something like this, I would use that tape for. Not a problem. But those get a lot of use if you push them. And I don't know if this has been... Nobody's ever tested these enough with this tape to say that's going to be strong enough for continued use, pushing on and off. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to cut away now and set this up a little bit more, and we will go to town. Back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. While I was gone, I actually did a little practice one. This one came out, just a vector release. Came out pretty good. I've got 2 coats of paint in there, and I will. I didn't want to look like a total idiot if something went wrong. But that's okay. I've done that before. So I'm still alive. So what I'll do now is I'll show you how I got to this. That's 2 coats of paint. So we'll take the next, the vector hold now. You can see that it's clear. And you got to start with the right kind of paint, the right thickness. Again, I'm just using regular old soft body Liquitex. I got this at Michael's, I think, or an arts and crafts store. I don't know what it is, but any hobby latex paint will do. Okay, you want to go latex. It's a lot easier to work with. This stuff is about 4 years old, and it's old. So when I poured it out into my dish here, you don't need a lot. It was pretty stiff, so I added a little bit of this stuff to it. And you want your mixture to be a little stiff. You don't want it to be too runny, or else it won't lay down into those holes there, into the recesses, and grab real good. You'll have everything kind of shining through, and it'll take more than 2 coats. So I like to get it kind of a stiff consistency, but not really too stiff. So you pick it up, you don't want it dripping off your brush, okay? And if it gets too wet, don't worry, just put some more paint in there, or if it's not enough, put some more of that stuff in there. But like I said, this is latex. You use a little bit of water, and you want to always keep your brush clean. You know, just clean it up in there. Have a rag handy. Yep, paper towel. I have a rag around here somewhere, but it disappeared. So anyway, start with a nice clean, damp brush. Just an artist brush. You don't want a big paintbrush or nothing, just a nice little artist brush. And pick up your lens and just dip it in this mixture a little bit. I just leave it on the ground there and just kind of paint over the whole top of the area. You don't want to glob it on there so you have mountains of paint, but you want to put enough in there to just kind of fill it in. You know, just fill it into the top of the lens there. I don't know if you're getting this. Just dabbing it in there. Again, not a whole lot, or else you're going to have too much to clean off. It'll be a mess for you. And this stuff actually dries pretty quick. So just leave that sit there for a couple minutes. Clean my tool. Clean off my brush. Always have a nice clean brush. Okay, and set that aside. And while that's drying up a little bit, if you take it off too soon, it'll tend to pull the paint out from your letters, and you'll have some spots. You'll end up having some spots in there anyway. That's why we put on 2 coats. So while I'm doing that, what I do is I'll take another lens, one of the other lenses from over here. Remember, this is latex paint. cleans up really fast and easy. And I'll get a piece of paper towel, kind of wrap it around there. You craftsmen among you, you know what this is. This is like a sanding block, okay? And it keeps you from over sanding, or in this case, going too far into the laser cut letters and digging out too much paint. You want to go right over the top. So I get a little bit, and again, you don't want a dry thing either. You want to kind of wet it a little bit, because you don't want to soak up too much paint. You may mostly want to just take it and wipe it off across there. Just like that. Look at that. Okay, so, yep, there's sometimes we'll get away with only just one thing, but you can see how it's kind of smeared. That's okay. Don't worry about that, because we can go back, wet our paper up a little bit, and go the other way, clean it right off. Okay? Like that. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it looks pretty good, but it's still, we can get it looking better. Okay? I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes, and while that's drying, I'm going to take this camera, bring it over to the torso, and you can see now, whoop, sorry. Do you remember the old installation where we have the vector release? Come on, focus, focus, focus. Sorry guys. See what a big difference that makes? My God, see that? Huge, huge really difference. That's just gonna pop. It really is. So I'm going to turn this off now, and we'll come back on when that other piece is ready to put the second coat. You right back? Okay, I'm back, and it's literally only been a couple of minutes. I want to get that. I wanted that bottom layer to dry some. I mean, you can blow on it, let it sit, walk away, get a beer, come back. It doesn't matter. You can come back and do the second coat tomorrow if you want. But in the real world, you'd probably be doing all the rest of those at the same time. So by the time you got them all painted up, this one be ready to be wiped clean. And by the time you get them all wiped clean, you're ready for the next coat. So remember I said my wiping block here. This again, that's going to be the undercoat, so we don't want that to get too messy. That'll be cleaned up anyway. But it's acrylic paint. It cleans right up, you know. And you just take the old piece and throw it in the garbage. We're going to need to do that again for the next one. Okay. I'll get it ready for the second coat. Again, this is my little wiping block. Vector hold is what we did. Get my paintbrush and just make a mess. Well, don't make a mess. Paint it, just dab it on over the letters, filling in the letters again. Again, you don't want your paint too stiff or too soft. If you notice it hardening up on you, throw a couple drops of this medium in there. Okay. Just make sure we have all our spots. See there? Hope you can got that. Again, I got to let that sit for a little while. And the idea is to get it just as it starts drying around the edges. So when you wipe some of that off, you might see a little bit stuck on there that was already dry around the outsides. That's just about right. What we're going to do later on then, when we get ready, is after I get all these things painted and all of them glued together, or even before, I'm probably going to, well, I'll probably do it before I glue them all together, but I'm going to take that sandpaper and fog the top of that with 400 grit wet dry sandpaper, really fine stuff. And again, I'll be using like a sanding block like this. and that'll help clean that off. So if there's any spots or anything left over, that sanding will help clean up the edges and make it really sharp and crisp. So I'm going to let this sit for another minute or two. I'll be back. I'll shut off the camera. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Now, as you guys get good at this, you can almost watch your paint dry. You've heard that expression. It's kind of boring, you've heard, but you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but it'll kind of start to dry and kind of cave into the lettering, and you actually can see it kind of dry a little bit. So it's kind of crystallizing. So we're going to get this wet again, not really wet, just a little wet, and do our wipe. Oh, look at that, huh? Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, it's smeared a little bit. But I'm going to get to the clean side of this, make it a little wet, just a little bit, and do it the other way. And that's clean it up really nice. And there's still some drags on there that I can get off a little bit later when that paint dries in there, and it's not such a hazard to get in there and make any damage to the painting I've done. So you can probably, I don't know if you can see the streaks on there, just a little bit of a streak. That could almost just wipe off with your finger later on after that completely dries. Again, the sanding will take that off too. So you want to get as much as that off as possible. And that I wouldn't get too much, just what you saw me do. So I'm not going to bore you guys with doing every one of these single lenses. I'm going to cut the camera right now, and I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to paint the rest of these just like I showed you I did this one, and this one was done the same way. And I will come back and I will show you the difference. Okay? Adios. I'll be right back. Hi guys, I'm back for a minute. I'm halfway through the repaint, the second coat of all my... Pardon me, that's my dog there. She's a little excited about something. Anyway, halfway through my second coat on my button lenses, and I just wanted to stop and tell you guys that I said before that you probably do them all one time. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. This stuff gets ahead of you and you got a mess. Okay, so do 3 or 4 at a time, and that way you got some time in between to do stuff like I'm doing now. Also, I had mentioned, I think I had said this was latex, which is correct, but it's actually acrylic. So latex and acrylic's the same, but they call it in this, this is actually acrylic artist color paint, Liquitex. When you're in this kind of medium, it's going to be acrylic paint. So I'm going to shut this off and finish up my stuff here, and I'll be right back, okay? Okay, I'm back, and I'm all done with the painting phase of it anyway. And here they all are. Ain't they pretty? I've got them all lined up in the proper way that they're supposed to go, with the proper colors behind them. Oh, this is going to be nice. I can't wait to get them in. It's just going to be such a thing of beauty. Isn't it going to be cool? And this is, oh, and it is just going to be, let's find where, I'm sorry. It's just going to be a nice thing. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just let this dry overnight, because it is getting into the evening now and it's time for an adult beverage. And I'll be back in the morning, and I will then figure out how we're going to sand these, okay? And we'll get through that together. Have a great day. Evening, night. Bye. Hello everybody, I'm back. I've gone ahead and sanded down 4 of the buttons, just the acrylic buttons, just to make sure I had the right technique down to show you guys, and I think I've got it mastered. Okay, these are ones that have been I like to call it frosted or fogged. It's just all you're doing is just sanding down the acrylic. You remember the original ones were clear, and we painted the laser cut letters in there that Craig had designed into them. And he also describes on his page, when you're doing the finishing, that he suggests that you sand them down. And that's what I did. And I didn't do this on my original robot that personally belongs to me. You can recall I said that this is a robot that I'm rebuilding for a friend up north. He asked me to help him put it back together for him and do some more things with it. But anyway, I didn't do this on my robot, and I'm thinking maybe I made a mistake because I like the way it looks. It kind of matches the look of the white dialites and the bezel, which Craig also makes. So I'll put links to all this stuff on the description. So anyway, and then what's going to happen is once it's put on the backing, it's the light shines through. It's really going to pop. It's going to really catch those colored rays coming through there, and that frosting is going to diffuse the light and just catch it and send it out in all directions. So, I mean, if you want to compare the two, I mean, this is an optional step, but you can see, hopefully you can see the difference between the two, between the frosted and the clear. I like it. It is definitely a nice effect. So, there it is. You probably can see it best there. There you go. So, Craig is right again. Craig I think his last name is pronounced Reinbrecht. You can go on to our website at the B9 Builders Club, the B9 Robot Builders Club, and look at his page. I'll have a link to it in the description, okay? So what I'm going to do now is tell you what you're going to need to do this. Basically, it's pretty easy. You get yourself some fine sandpaper. It doesn't have to be wet dry sandpaper, it can be regular sandpaper, but keep the grit within 300 or 400 grit. Extra fine. Okay, I found that to be the best. Craig mentioned 400 on his site. This is a little more aggressive. And it works pretty good. I tried 600 grit, and that it took too much. Now, what else are you going to need? I have a nice sanding block here that I bought years ago at the hardware store, and you'll see how I'm going to use that. And then you're going to want another piece of just regular sandpaper here to get the hard to reach spots that are kind of indented that this flat surface won't get. Along with that, have yourself a little bit of water, a nice cup of water, clean water, and a rag, okay? Because we're going to, after we get this fogged up or frosted, we're going to have to get all that dust off there and out from these indents, so it pops really nice and clean. All right, I'm going to set up the camera and I will show you my procedure, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, let's do this. It's relatively easy, like I said, really quick. We're going to do the flat surface of the front, where the numbers are, and each side. And again, I want to make this clear. We're not going to be doing the back of this thing or the piece that it attaches to. I talked to Craig Reinbrecht about this, and we agreed, and this is his thought, that if we sand the back, it's going to be it could cause problems with bubbles and all that. We want the light to shine through, hit the diffused surfaces, and blow out. So we're going to do that. Another thing I have to mention is that these edges are laser cut, and there's some ripples in there, and you can feel them. So going across this nice flat surface here, we're going to get some pockets in there that are going to be shiny, and maybe even on the front. So that's where this piece comes in with a nice soft surface of your thumb, you can get in there and kind of work it back and forth and get that up, get that shiny off of there. And I want to stress that we are not taking any material off, okay? You want to have these corners and these points remain very sharp and very defined. All we're doing is frosting it or fogging it or whatever. Just enough to do that. Now, I start with face down in a circular motion. That keeps any lines from happening on there and makes it nice and diffused, if that's the word I'm looking for. So just put it on top of there and start your circular motions. Don't be afraid to change your paper if it gets dull, because this stuff the paper wears off too. You'll probably smell a weird smell. That's the acrylic being worked. And when you pull it up, don't freak out, because your letters are going to be full. You won't see the black. It just blows out of there. And that's what the water's for too. So we want to take a look in the light to see if there's anything that needs a little more sanding, or if there's any shiny spots. That looks pretty good. Okay, looks like a nice matte finish. Now I'm going to go to the sides. There's 4 sides. Again, do not do the back. Take your time with this. It's not a race. You don't have to be in a hurry here. Turn the radio on. Okay, now here I can see. I don't know if you can see that, but no doubt half of it is clear and the other half is shiny. I'm sorry, half is shiny and clear, the other half is frosted. So that's where this comes in handy. I'm just gonna put my thumb on it. You want this paper to be pressed into your thumb, so don't fold it up or nothing like that. You want it to be pliable so you can get down in there and work it just back and forth. Use your fingernail if you want to. Take a look at it. Now that shiny's all gone. Now, what I like to do is put it back on the block and give it just a little bit more. Okay, oh, that looks nice. Yeah. You can tilt it just a touch, but again, don't wear out these edges. Okay? I've got 1 done. 3 more to go. Keep the block flat, straight up and down. Circular motions. And I got 1 little spot here that's shiny. Take your time. I got to keep telling myself, because I'm always in a hurry. I always rush into places where angels fear to tread. And I got to tell you, putting the sandpaper to these nice, clean, clear acrylic discs was hard for me to do. I was a little bit worried how it was going to turn out. I've never done this before. Craig has. So I trusted him and just trusted my craftsmanship, and it turned out surprisingly well. Okay, I got 3 done. Always checking to see if you got shiny spots, especially along the edges here. That happens more than you think along the edges. Just do what I did with my thumb and kind of get the edges, frost them up. You don't want those edges popping out light, okay, when everything else is frosted. Again, be careful of your edges. Don't wear them down. It's as simple as that. And here, there's a shiny edge right there. Actually, I'm going to get that in a couple of other little spots. Okay, that's nice. Okay, now we got to clean this thing because it's full of dust. The letters are full of dust. You saw what happened before. My fingers are full of dust. So you can take this and run this under running water. You can take this and run this under running water, or you can dip it in here, like a glass of or a cup of water, kind of work your thumbs on it, take your rag. Either way, after you're done rinsing, get in those letters and numbers and clean it up. That acrylics, make sure you wait a day to do this, because that acrylic paint needs a cure. Once that acrylic paint is cured, that black in there, like we showed you before, that stuff's some tough stuff. It'll still scratch out of there, so don't be digging around in there with anything hard. But this soft rag will push it down and it gets right in there. Don't be afraid to dip it again. See there? That's a work of art. That is beautiful. Thank you, Craig, if you see this. You have an amazing product here. Now, look it over one more time. I see a shiny edge right there. So we're going to do this again. We're just going to hit that lightly on the edge. And clean it again. This will also get all that dust off there when you go to glue it. Yeah, nice. Beautiful. Okay. Don't know if I showed you this before, but there you go. Big difference. Okay? I don't know. Sometimes I get out of camera. If I did, I apologize. And that'll also, if you look down on an angle, you can see the back on this clear one. You can now see in the back, you see the letters. So once it's frosted, you can't see those letters down in there. So that'll be kind of nice. I like that idea. Thank you, Craig. All right, now I'm going to go away and finish these other two. And when I come back, we'll figure out how to get these glued to the colored backing, okay? And we'll have fun figuring that out. I've never used that glue before like that. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I've actually made a couple already. I had to develop a way to do this, a procedure. And so I've got 4 of them done, and I think I've got a pretty good idea about how to do this now. This is just my thing, so if you guys have got a better way of doing this, more power to you. Give me some ideas in the comments below. But here's what I got. The things I'm using is I need some alcohol to clean the discs off so the tape will stick, a lint-free rag, and I've got some razor blades here to trim with, and an X-Acto knife. I found that this thing gets dull pretty quick, so I went to this. This is good for picking off the lining from the tape. And I got some tape here and a little dental pick in case I need it. So first thing I want to do here is line up all my discs with the proper colors matching the proper names, okay? And if you can't tell it through earlier in this video, you can go to Craig Reinbrecht's vendor page at the b9buildersclub.com, and he's got a nice write-up and a lot of good pictures about this kit and how these are supposed to look. So, and I showed it earlier also. So anyway, let's start with, I'm going to do one here. Start with this one. Got to tell you, this this part of this kit for me has been a little challenging. Not that it is really hard. It's just It's just a little bit of a learning curve. But if you take your time, you'll be fine. My first one looks good. They all look good. It's more a question of the proper technique. And I switched my techniques throughout the whole thing. So this tape here, this Gorilla Glue mounting tape, is very very clear. And if you stick your finger on there, you'll see it. So you don't want your thumbprint sticking through one of these lenses. So well, this is the way I did it here. I took my disc, my lens, and made sure I'm going to stick it on the proper size after I clean it. I don't want to stick it on the letter side. I want to stick it on the smooth, clear side. So I'm going to look in. Actually, I'm looking through it right now, if you can't tell, to make sure that's totally clear. And it looks pretty good. And I'm going to pick a good spot in there and just kind of lay it on there. And I'm not going to lay it flat. I'm kind of going to work it back from one, lay it down from the back to the other. First touch, I don't know if you can see that. First touch it, okay. The idea is try not to get any air gaps behind there. And I've already stuck it down. This stuff is sticky as heck. Okay, well, we're going to go with that. I can look at the back of it and kind of work some of these air bubbles out. I'm gonna lift it up to the light. You probably won't be able to see this. And just to make sure. So the thing about this stuff is really, really not gooey, but thick and bouncy. And you can probably take your fingernail lightly and work some little air bubbles out before it gets stuck too good. So I did that. Looks pretty good, actually. I don't see any bubbles in there. Next thing I'm going to do is from the back is cut it off the reel. Set that aside. Okay, now I have this. And if I find a better way to do this as I'm going, I will stop and do it. But you want to make sure your razor blade is sharp, okay? I have a nice hard, and this is hard, this is actually a self-healing cutting mat. I don't know if a hard mat would be better. The other side is hard, but I'm using this side right here and just kind of trimming down the edges as close as I can. And you don't want to cut underneath, or you don't want to talk about if you cut and pull, you'll have a piece come out from underneath. Because when you actually get to the point and gluing this down, you'll see that missing piece under there. So try not to, here it sounds kind of like rubber, so just work your way down slowly, cut after cut after cut. And pretty soon, that rubber piece will come off of there. I like to hold it down with my thumb really tight. I found that helps. Okay, now that rubber piece is coming, it's almost off. See there? And the backing came with it this time. Sometimes it doesn't. Get that off there. And now we got a nice semi-close cut. It doesn't have to be exact, guys. It really doesn't. But if you want, you can trim it up a little bit. Again, if you get too picky, you could tear a piece off from underneath. So you just work your way around like that. Hold it down with your thumb. Just cut it. Now that one came pretty fast. But the backing, the liner is still there. So we'll cut that liner off. And see there? That liner came right off. And again, there's a couple boogers on there. I'm going to kind of try to get off. It doesn't have to be exact, because that'll be back behind the bezel. The bezel, I'm sorry. But you don't want a lot sticking out either. Okay, see I got a little bit more off of there. That actually looks pretty good. Oh, don't rip it like I just did. Because you could pull a piece off from underneath and ruin your whole job so far. The nice thing about this Gorilla Glue masking is that mounting tape is that came off really nice. Is that if you really screw it up, you can pull a piece off and start over again. And why do I know that? Because I had to do it before I turned the camera on once, just figuring this out. See, that came right off. That looks really neat. They're really good. I got 3 done already. Well, the fourth one, the glue came off, but the probably I don't know if you can see that not. The backing thing, the liner is still on there. So we'll cut that off. And take a look. I'm going to lift it up and look in the light. And I don't see any bubbles in that at all. We got lucky on this one, guys. Well, maybe skill had something to do with it, right? So I'm not going to mess with that no more. That's okay. Now comes the next step of taking the liner off, the backing off, and sticking it to the colored lens, the back part. And if you guys can figure out some kind of jig for this, go for it, man. But I just couldn't come up with it, or I'm too impatient. So what I do is after I take the backing off, I come right over the top and look down and just try to get it all lined up and push it down and lay it on there like that, coming from one side to the other. Again, I don't have the backing off, but this is good practice. Just before you take the backing off, try it a few times just to get an idea where you want it. And you want it even all the way around, okay? You don't want it off to just one side to the other. You want all the edges even. And I'm pretty good at eyeballing it, okay? Some guys aren't. And that's okay. That's just the way it is. I've been building things all my life, and I can eyeball things pretty good. Now, with that said, I'll probably screw this up pretty good in front of you guys. So hopefully not. So anyway, let's charge ahead. Get this backing off of here. Be careful you don't dig into it and pull a bunch of glue off with it. Just get the edge and pull it off like that, okay? Now, I'm not too excited about doing this part of it, but it's got to be done. So, take a deep breath, steady your nerves, keep your hands from shaking, and just take your time, okay? Don't let your fingers get in the way. Oh, okay. Now, there's a big air bubble in there, okay? But it comes up to the top. I can see it in there. I don't know if you guys can or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here and push this corner, and hopefully I can work it out. See how I'm kind of working it up? And it's disappearing. Oh no, there's a big one right in the middle. Ooh, right in the center. Oh. What can we do about that? Can we live with that? I can't. Well, let's try this. I'm going to take this dental pick, stick it in from the side, all the way to the center, through the bubble, come back out, and maybe I can work that out of there. Okay, well, It didn't work. So let's do this. Let's take it apart. And do it again. Careful not to scratch anything. This is pretty tough stuff. Okay. See there? Now I don't know if that bubble was because of some imperfection in the leveling of the disc. I want to take all that stuff off of there. Get the rest of the stuff. Now, see, it comes off pretty good. It cleans up really nice. I got a little scratch on there from... I broke my fingernail. Huh, that's some tough stuff. Anyway, okay, got a little scratch on there. Where's that scratch? No, that's glue. I'm going to clean this up again. Yeah, that was just glue. Keep our area clean. Okay. Let's do this again with my busted fingernail. Okay. Casually. Don't ever be afraid to admit that you screwed up. So, let's try this again. Pick a nice clean spot. No fingerprints. Make sure I have the right side. Work it on there. Yeah. Okay. Cut it off. That's some really goopy stuff. Okay. That out of the way. Move this out of the way. Leaves me with this. Okay. Let's trim this up. Get those couple boogers off of there. You gotta keep your, if it starts not to cut, get a new blade. Always have a good tool. Every man's got to have a good tool. Hey, it's a family store. Family show. Okay, let's try it this way and hold it down flat. Okay, you can probably tell I'm starting to rush a little bit. I should not do that. So let's take a deep breath. Relax and just do this thing. If you guys get bored, you can fast forward. But who knows, you might miss some important information. Okay, goop came off, then the liner. Edges are looking pretty good. I might have trimmed those up just a little bit when I'm done here. Okay, that came off nice. I love this mat. Okay, that doesn't have to be exact. not for this purpose. Now, I've done this before, but I've used like super glue, wet glue or goop. It's the first time I've used this mounting tape by Gorilla. I'm not 100% sure that the glue wouldn't be a better application here, but we're committed here, okay? That looks good. I'm going to look at the camera. We're getting low on battery, so if something happens here, I will change the battery and we'll pick up where we left off. So I got to get the liner off of this thing. Okay, now this is the part we had a problem with before. Deep breath, line it all up. I mean, before it was lined up perfect. Just had that big freaking bubble in the middle. Oops. Okay, I'm going to start in the center now. Pushing the center first. Oh, that turned out nice. Oh man, I can tell you right now that is nice. I pushed in the center first and worked my way out with my kind of a rolling thing here. So, look at that, huh? What do you think? It's pretty close to being centered too, and square. Might be a little bit off that way, but that's okay. I found on last time, if you're a little off center, you can take like the pick here and kind of get between the crack and give her a little bit of a nudge while you're pushing it. So push, because this is flexible. Push and squeeze it, and then just kind of nudge it over like that. Well, what do you think? I like it. Hold it up to the light. I can't see a single bubble in that. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I've got 5 more to do. So that's the way that's done, okay? You saw me screw it up. You saw me fix it. It's just, the only thing is, I just wish there was a better way to get them together and get it all square like a jig or something like that. And I just didn't take the time to do it because right now it's kind of creeped over a little bit to the side farther than I like. And you see I'm kind of pushing it like this and squeezing it. And that does push it over. See how you can kind of move it around? So maybe just like that. I don't know if that'll help or hold or not. So, but either way, it'll be fine. Okay, as long as we have a little ledge right here, that'll set up against the bezel and keep the light from seeping up. All right. Well, I'm going to turn off the camera now and do those other 5, and then we will be back and we'll mount it into the light box. All right. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Adios. Okay, now that we have our buttons put together, let's put them into the bezel and the backer and get them onto the light box and install them on the robot. Which brings me to the second item that I would like to show off for Craig. If you remember on the first part of the video, I'd mentioned having 2 new items available for sale through Craig. One is the new button kit. The other is this really cool little light box. If you see it, if you look at it, it's just beautiful. It's stainless steel. It's already, I'm not sure if he's going to send them pre-bent and put together, or if that's going to be your job. This one here came to me already pre-bent and put together. It doesn't look like it's a big job though. You just bend it along these tabs here, and then bend the two other tabs down on each side, and it locks in place. Pretty simple. And it also comes with a light, LED light strip in there, and it's just fantastic. Wire hookup, bam, 12 volts. This is 12 volts, hot and ground, and to a battery or something, or power supply, and you got your light source that will light up these buttons beautifully. And he also has a backer that lays up against, and is all bent to the proper size. If you look at that, just beautiful. So let's talk about this backer a little bit. It comes in two types. He in his old kit, he had the clear type. You see it back here. It's just a clear bent plate. But on his old kit, the deal was you'll notice that the back, this is an old button from an old kit. You notice that the back of it is opaque. The front is the color. With his new kit, the front, you remember we frosted this. This was clear, and the back is a clear color. So if you drop that in and put the clear backing on there, it's like a window. You'll have light shining through it, and you won't have any kind of anything to diffuse the light. The little bit of frosting I did is not enough. You put this light strip behind it, it'll blow right through there. So what Craig also offers is this opaque backer. These are about 10 bucks. With his new light kit, this is a must. It goes in place to the clear one, and it takes the place of that opaque backing that on his old pardon me, on his old button kit. So it's just lovely. I tried it out already, and it diffuses the light beautifully. Along with my little frosting bit here, I think it comes really good. It looks really good. So what I'm going to do now is take all this and put it all together and install it onto the robot. Hopefully your holes are already cut. If not, there's a template for all that. You can find that template also on Craig Reinbrecht's vendor page too. So I'm going to shut off the camera and get this onto the robot, get it running, and I'll come back and show you what the final little bit looks like. Alright, be right back. Okay, I've got Craig Reinbrecht's new version of his buttons installed now. It wasn't too hard. You saw in my last segment how I put them together, assembled them, painted them, and now with the new parts that I showed you, it looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. I've got Craig's nice stainless steel light box in the back. It's so shiny, it looks like a mirror. Hello! So it's really, really nice in there. I'm sure you can see that. So it was pretty easy to assemble. Basically, you got your bezel. I know I didn't show you because it just took a long time for film. It didn't take that long, maybe a half hour to put the whole thing together. But the bezel actually holds in the buttons and that opaque backer that I showed you. You can see it right there. Right there, that's that opaque backer. It sandwiches between the torso and the bezel, and the these two screws here hold the whole thing together with that light box. So the bezel's on one side and the opaque backers on the other. And these are nice and solid. I mean the backer is supposed to hold them up there, but because of the back of the torso being a little bit out of, kind of bumpy in back there and out of a line and stuff, it didn't quite keep these tight, if you know what I mean. It didn't sandwich up against the back of these very well, and they kind of moved around. So what I did actually to make it easier to assemble, I took some hot glue, a hot glue gun, right there, and I actually ran a small bead around the other side and hot glued the lenses right to the bezel. And it's the very thin bead along the top and the bottom here on the sides, just because you didn't want it pushing out and holding the bezel out. So it actually made it a lot easier to hold these in as I was assembling, and it makes for a nice tight fit afterwards. So there you have it. Craig's new version of his buttons, his new opaque backer, and his new light box. Just a wonderful combination. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and happy building. See you next time.